Okay, yeah,
So,
you joined Mountain basically in its infancy, didn't you? I mean, they just played Woodstock. The band was really, really new at this stage. So, what was it like joining that band from the band that you were in?
oh, that's a long story, but I'll try to capsulize it. What happened was Jimi Hendrix's manager managed to get Leslie on the show last minute, and there really wasn't a band the way I understood it. They had Norman Smart, who played on Leslie's Mountain record. There was the name of the record was Mountain, so that record was being promoted at Woodstock. So there really wasn't a band at that point until Leslie turned around to Felix and said, "Wait a second, this is going well. Why don't we get a proper drummer?" Norman Smart is a great drummer, but he was a folk drummer. He actually played with people like Ian and Sylvia, Gordon Lightfoot, and those
Oh,
people.
yeah.
So he was really good. But they wanted somebody that could hit hard. At the time, I was not a hard hitter, but I learned how to hit hard. And at the time, all I had from the band I was in Montreal, the local band was called Energy, and we played covers, a lot of dance music. So I had a cowbell, and I had timbales. I didn't even have a proper rock set, and so when we started playing, it served the purpose because timbales, they're like neutron bombs. They really cut. So if there was a fill in between, so it cut right through the Sun amplifiers and the Marshalls. That's what I had to deal with because it wasn't that sophisticated at that point in terms of the drum miking. So basically, it was like a rugby game. It was really hard hitting, and I had a good time doing it. But I didn't come from, well, there was no real heavy metal at that time.
Yeah.
But as a result of having a cowbell and the metal timbales, when I started playing, a lot of I guess the reviews would say, "Wow, the metal sounding." And all I had those just to cut. There wasn't any sophistication to it. You know what I'm saying? So at the time, again, in the local band, I had the cowbell. And if I try to put this in capsule form because it goes on. I was playing in a local band while Woodstock was starting to happen, late April '69. I was in a local band in Nantucket, Cape Cod, which is a beautiful island. And it's, anyways, what happened, we were playing this real funky beach club. And because of the heat that summer, everybody got an air conditioner in Nantucket. Keeping in mind, it's just a small town on an island. And at that night, I guess everybody turned on and they blew the whole electrical circuit on the island. So there was no lights when we were playing. It just went out that night. Bam! And my friend, Roy Bailey and Art had called up a girlfriend of his from Mississippi to hang out in Nantucket. And they were dancing. And then, and I was playing Up on Cripple Creek. She sends me if I was covering the band, and I was playing, and they were dancing, and I had taken a couple of soul pills, if you get the drift, and I'm playing, and the lights go out, and all organ, all the and I'm sitting there with the cowbell, just hitting anything to keep them dancing, because Paul, she was hot. She was wearing a see-through patch kind of dress. She was perspiring. It was like one of those hot fucking nights. Anyways, I wanted to keep her dancing because, I was like looking at her, and I guess like, "Hey, Mississippi!" And I'm screaming at her because there's no mics. And I said, "What?" Anyways, I started making up this lyric as a rap song, "Mississippi," and the cowbell, keep them dancing. Always keep them dancing with the cowbell. "Hey, Mississippi! Mississippi Queen, you know what I mean?" And she started looking at me. And I went, "Ooh, I have a chance. Maybe I'll get lucky." Anyways, I didn't get lucky that way. Roy took her home. He got lucky. But I kept the lyric, the idea of keeping the cowbell and that going, because basically it was just rap. There was nothing. So fast forward, a couple of weeks later, I'm in New York, and they're saying, "Corky, do you think you can handle the drumming?" And I went, yeah, I said, "Let me think about it for like 2 seconds." And I said, "Yeah." And so when we went to record it, Leslie's Felix wants us to write these songs. I don't know where to start. I said, "Do you have any lyrics?" I happen to have written down the lyrics at that time. And Here, I had him written out. I just put him in front of Leslie. Literally, just here's the lyric, Mister. You know what I mean? This, way down. I did the whole thing with, and he goes, shit, and he goes, banana, and he gets right into it. Within a New York minute, we had the song was there. Leslie just started screaming what I was screaming, and literally it wrote itself in the limo, as they say. Anyway, so that's what. Then we bring it into the studio. After this is towards the end of the mountain climbing sessions, of which I must say I was really lucky because I had brought in some songs from the local band. There's a song called "Who Am I But You and the Sun," which became Yasker's Farm. And there was the band that I was in was a lot more commercial, I guess. And so I just brought the songs and My Lady and a few. So I was lucky that way. So we bring in the Queen, and Felix says, I don't know. And Leslie said, what are you talking about? It's fucking rocking. You kidding? Anyways, we played it the first time. Leslie and I look at each other. We got it. Felix says, no. We're going 14 times later, we do it. We still use the first one. So that was it. The best part about the story with that, and this is serious as a heart attack, Felix, at the end, we're mixing Mississippi Queen. It's the end of the studio. We had 14 days to make mountain climbing. And Felix says, Corky, you met Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, I met him back in Montreal. Well, he's next door. They're recording the Band of Gypsies. Can you go and see if Jimmy will come in and listen to it? It's, what happened? This record plant, everybody's there in New York City. So I go next door. I said, excuse me, Mr. Hendrix, we're just finishing a song. You mind coming? Just see what you think. Well, no, so he walks in, and needless to say, everybody in the studio is like, there he is. He sits down, he puts his head down, and we play the song, and everybody's like on edge. And he picks his head up, and after at the end, he goes, cool. That was it. Cool. So we figured we had something. And that was the story of the Queen. And that's when it became the lead track. Because when you listen to the rest of the record, we had the other rocker, which never in my life that Leslie had written, and I had written before that. And yeah, it became the lead track. And the only problem with that, we should have written like 15 of those at that time, Anyway, so is that enough of a story about the Queen? I guess, and yeah, that's the main story about it. And it was a financial pleasure, Paul, I must say, 50 odd years later, I'm still getting royalties. Indeed. Which is very good.
Indeed. But, and speaking of royalties, you mentioned the fact that you were kind of jamming away to the band, and you were friends with Levon Helm, weren't you? And didn't you once try to offer him a credit on the song as well, but he politely refused?
Well, he was, I knew him from Canada and stuff. Beautiful man. And I used to drive from Toronto to Nantucket, and I'd stop by his place and we'd sit and hang out. And I remember playing it for him. He went, holy damn, that's a hot track, Corky. That's good. I said, well, Levon, I was playing Cripple Creek. I was playing your feel, the backbeat, And he says, well, Corky, you were playing the backbeat? And he said, yeah, it was like a pubic hair off the beat. So it sounds sexy, and a bap, a bunk. And I said, I really owe you some publishing. He said, Corky, I do not hear Cripple Creek in Mississippi. You could keep the money, and I offered it to him, in a nice way. But he was a big fan. Well, Leslie lived in Woodstock for a period of time with those guys, and we got to be friendly with them. Beautiful bunch of guys. Beautiful time.